Hello and welcome to Treasury Notes, a show dedicated to the latest news and information from the Office of West Virginia State Treasurer John Perdue. I'm your host, Kim Ward, filling in for Gina Joins. Coming up on today's show, a hands-on exhibit that teaches kids important lessons about money. We'll have a preview of Moneyville, the fun financial display now open at the Beckley Youth Museum in Raleigh County. Plus, kids aren't the only ones getting a lesson on finances. Later in the show, we'll see how Treasurer Perdue is also providing free financial planning for high school students and adults. But first, a financial achievement of a different type. In February, Treasurer Perdue announced a major milestone for Smart 529, West Virginia's college savings plan. State officials and leaders in higher education joined the Treasurer to make the announcement in conjunction with Higher Education Day at the state legislature.
So we're happy to be here today. We're happy to be part of Higher Education Day.
Treasurer Perdue kicked off the celebration for Higher Education Day with a major announcement regarding the state's college savings plan.
$2 billion celebration.
A celebration to mark the Smart 529 college savings plan surpassing $2 billion in financial assets.
And was able to grow in a little over 10 years, a $2 billion program, and it's really starting to catch on now.
Smart 529 was established 11 years ago under Treasurer Perdue's leadership. The plan now boasts more than 120,000 account owners.
To make it one of the best in the nation says a lot about our leadership in the state of West Virginia and the dedication to West Virginia education.
With little to no fees and generous tax benefits, Perdue says the program is able to compete with college savings plans nationwide. And the flexibility of the plan makes it even more attractive.
Being able to move money from child to grandchild inside the family makes it a very good program, and that's why we have so many people participating in the program.
With the growth the plan has already seen, the future of Smart 529 looks bright indeed.
I anticipate we're going to hit $3 billion before you know it.
If you would like to open a Smart 529 account or learn more about the plan's benefits, just log on to smart529.com or you can call 866-574-3542. Whether it's saving for college or simply balancing your household budget, the more you know, the easier it is. Treasurer Perdue has made it one of his missions to help educate the people of West Virginia about finances. And he believes you're never too young to start learning about money. That's why he jumped at the opportunity to be involved with a hands-on museum exhibit designed to introduce financial concepts to children. The display, called Moneyville, is now open at the Youth Museum of Southern West Virginia, located next to the Beckley Exhibition Coal Mine in Raleigh County. Joining me today to talk a little bit more about this exhibit is Leslie Baker, the Director of Operations there at the mine. Leslie, thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, now I understand that the museum is actually just one component of the whole complex there at the Beckley mine. Can you start by telling us a little bit about all that there is to offer there?
Well, the Beckley Exhibition Coal Mine, you know, we have the underground tour that's very, very popular, where you actually go underground on a man trip and vintage cars and learn about vintage equipment. And we have veteran coal miners that lead the tours. We also have the coal camp with the miner's house, the miner's shanty, the school, the church, and the superintendent's house. And then we have the mine museum and the Ray Hall Company store. So that's one aspect of what you can do when you visit our site. And then, of course, there's the Youth Museum. And the Youth Museum was founded in 1977 by a group of visionaries, retired educators who just really believed that our area needed a children's museum. And back in 1977, there were only 40 children's museums in the country, so we were really on the cutting edge. Today, there's over 250 in the country. Wow. But our mission has always been to educate and to be curriculum-based, and we have a Teachers Advisory Council that helps us select our exhibits. And we had wanted Moneyville for as long as it had been touring. It's probably been out there for about 15 years, but they finally downsized it so it would fit our size, because we're a smaller museum. And then actually we're finally able to afford it as well, because these exhibits that come from big national museums are quite expensive.
Well, as you were just pointing out, you know, of course you want people to come and visit the museum, the mine, all of these attractions and have fun, but really one of your biggest goals is that it's educational. Isn't that right?
The whole aspect of We look at it as educating our young, certainly the people from our area. We have a rich Appalachian heritage, and we want to make sure that our kids are proud of that heritage and know about every aspect of it. But we also feel very heavily the responsibility to educate people that come from the outside as well. That's why we try so hard with our interpretations and make them very authentic and realistic for the exhibition coal mine. But we also have the Mountain Homestead, which is a recreated pioneer village that tells early West Virginia history. And then when you come into the main gallery, what we have there is always something hands-on. We want these children that come to be able to understand that museums are not always institutions behind velvet ropes, but something that they can touch and see and learn from. It's kind of a sneaky way of learning in a children's museum because they're having such a good time they don't really realize that they're learning big important things.
Absolutely. Now, of course, obviously with things like the mine and the homestead, those attractions are there all the time. You can come visit as many times as you want, but your main display there in the museum actually changes on a regular basis.
That's correct. That was part of our mission because we knew we were going to be the only children's museum in southern West Virginia, and we didn't want it to be static all the time. We wanted the main gallery exhibit to change, so we change it about 3 times a year. Like I said earlier, it's always curriculum based, something that's hands-on, something that we know the kids are really going to learn from.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the current display at the museum in just a minute, but real quick first, just give us a couple of quick highlights about the kinds of displays that you've had in the past.
Oh golly, we've had everything from bats. We had a wonderful one on bats where the kids could actually hang upside down in a barn. We've had them on music. We've had them on art where you could actually be a part of the picture. I can remember that was a very popular one. Recently we had one based on 7 fairy tales that was very popular, and little girls loved it because you could actually get in Cinderella's carriage. And they learned that Cinderella is actually one of the oldest fairy tales there is. It was originally written back in Roman times. So there's always those kind of things that go along with it. You know, there's more behind the story of whatever it is that we're exhibiting there.
Yeah, like you said, kind of a sneaky way of teaching them something. They don't realize they're learning. They think they're just having a good time.
But over the years, I think we've had 102 exhibits.
So when you're looking at the displays that you're planning for the future, like when you were considering bringing Moneyville in, what was it that made you decide that you wanted to bring in this display to teach money, essentially, and the concepts of finances to children?
Well, unfortunately, we see in our gift shops how little our children know about money. They don't understand. They have a little $5 bill that their parents have given them to buy a souvenir while they're on their field trip, and they have no concept of what a price tag means or how to figure out what items they can buy. Sometimes even up well into the higher grades, they have problem. And tax is a foreign thing to them. They'll have $1 and they think they can afford something that's $1. So we thought if we brought in an exhibit that kind of really talked about these things, that maybe they could learn more about it. We have, the Moneyville has, you know, simple addition and subtraction with money components, and so that was really the reason behind it, because we see firsthand the financial literacy that our children need.
Okay. Well, Leslie, I want to talk more about what people can expect from Moneyville, but first, I'd like to give the viewers a brief look at the exhibit. I recently visited the museum to see the display and was excited to see interactive activities that really appeal to people of all ages.
The parents are loving the stock market. The children love the hands-on scales, and they're able to make their own money with their picture on the front. So it's created a very diverse audience. It's very educational, and I think everyone will enjoy it.
Moneyville is exactly what it sounds like, a kid-sized community that's all about money. And kids are having a blast learning in this fun environment.
I kind of liked the kids market, and I liked the lemonade stand and the bank part.
The exhibit is the latest display at the Youth Museum of Southern West Virginia, located next to the Beckley Exhibition Coal Mine in Raleigh County. Like previous exhibits at the museum, the staff was very careful in picking the appropriate display.
They have to be educational. We like them hands-on. We like an art component, and anything that will keep a child interested in coming back over and over to the museum.
When you visit Moneyville, you can learn about everything from recognizing and counting coins to buying and selling stocks. One of the first activities kids are drawn to is the market.
I liked that you got to get the food and put it in the basket and try to pay for it.
Think your child is too young to start learning about a budget? Think again.
Like, you have choices of whether you want to take dance lessons, buy a car, buy a house, buy groceries. So it gives you options and that little bit of knowledge of how to deal with the budget.
And what kid doesn't love a lemonade stand?
You had to sell it to the people, and if the price was too high, they'd say, it's too high. But if it was enough and good enough, they'd say, I like this price.
So did you make some money on your lemonade stand?
Yes.
How much did you make?
I think $300.70.
In this age of technology, where money can be traded in stocks and bonds, and you can pay for things with plastic, it may be more important than ever to teach children about dollars and cents.
I know in the gift shop sometimes they have trouble counting change. They'll just have a handful of money and not know what a dollar is.
And while it looks like kids are just playing and having a good time, you may be surprised at the lessons they're picking up on.
So I learned that if you earn a lot of money, but then don't earn any more money, you'd only go for like a few years. But if you start and you just keep saving your money, you can do it for as long as you want.
We are seeing toddlers come in with their parents, and they're going over to the market to buy vegetables and weigh them. While they can't grasp the full scope of the exhibit, it's a start, and that's one thing we like.
The Moneyville display has traveled around the country, but there is one thing that is unique to the display in Raleigh County. A kid-sized version of the iconic vault that sits in the treasurer's office at the state capitol. Inside the treasurer's vault, you'll find fun facts and even hear a message from Treasurer Perdue himself. There's also an activity where kids learn to spend, save, and share by taking everyday items and deciding if it's something they would spend money on now, like a basketball, or save money for in the future, like their college education. When they leave the museum, each child will receive a sticker activity so they can make their own spend, save, and share banks at home. Well, Leslie, financial education is something that's very important to Treasurer Perdue, and he does a lot of different programs to promote financial education in West Virginia. So he was really excited to be involved with Moneyville and to actually be able to add his own little display to the Moneyville display. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that fits in with the rest of the Moneyville display?
Well, it makes it unique to West Virginia, which we always try to do. We can't always accomplish, but when we first approached the treasurer's office about helping with this, well, mostly it was just about letting him know that we were going to have this exhibit and hoping he would come down and see it. But then when they called back and said they'd really like to help us with it, and we quickly came to the idea that we wanted to make our own unique component, and we wanted it to be about maybe the 529 and introduce the treasurer to all the kids that come through. And so, there was several creative forces that came together to come up with this really cute idea, I think. And then, some of the people at the museum worked to add their special touches to it. But we previewed it the other day, and the kids are absolutely loving it because it does tell about the save, share, and spend aspect, and as well as introduces the 529 savings plan for college. And so all the parents that come through, because we'll see thousands of school children during school tours, and their parents will be with them, and maybe some of them don't even know about that plan, and they'll learn about it right there because we do have those handouts as well.
Absolutely. Which, I've seen the display, and it's very colorful, just like the rest of the Moneyville display, and we're really pleased with how it turned out. You mentioned the activity, the spend, save, and share activity. Let's explain a little bit about how that works so they can see how it fits in with the rest of the Moneyville.
Well, talking about there's several components in Moneyville that tell about how important saving is. There's also one about how you have to budget, and so that just figures right into it with those three things, and especially on the whiteboard where they have to look at the graphics and decide where they're going to put it. Are they going to save for that? Are they going to spend it? Are they going to share with that? What are they going to do? It makes kids think about what they need to do with their money for the long term, not just today.
Right. It takes common things, like toys, and then, bigger things like a house and or college education, and we're trying to get them to think about, is this something that you would spend money on now, or are you going to have to save money before you can do this?
And many of the components, that general
Right.
theme runs through. The one that's on the budget, I think I've seen more kind of a aha moment with the kids when there's that balancing,
Absolutely.
that weight right there, and there's a big bag of money on one side of the way, and then they can have either a house or a car or clothes, and pretty soon that weight just comes up and they realize they don't have much left over for the fun things that they want to put on there. So.
Absolutely, because kids especially don't really have that grasp on the fact that they can't have everything that they want, or that certain things even cost money. They probably don't have any concept of, that you have to put money in savings, or you have to have money for the house that you live in, and that these are essentials. So the basics of a budget,
And this really
a lot of
outlines
people
that.
can learn from that. And it gives you a real visual.
And then there's the games that you play with the money, and you have to be able to fill in the blanks with the money. And then actually the grocery store game is very fun. The kids love that because they have to buy something, and then they have to figure out what they bought, and then they have to pay for it, and then they have to count the change back, so to make sure they get their
Right.
correct change. And that's really been an eye-opener for a lot of the children as well.
Now, what is the actual target age for this exhibit?
Well, in the museum world, we believe that even toddlers can come and get something from an exhibit like this. They'll just see bright colors, and there'll be buttons to push, but actually probably about 1st to 6th grade.
Right. So you say 1st to 6th grade, but I was there, and there were things there that interested me, and I've talked to other people there at the museum, and they say that adults are actually learning a lot from this as well. Isn't that right?
Oh, yeah. They've gone around, especially the stock market. The adults are really drawn to that one because we all know, but how many of us really, really know how the stock market works?
Right.
And it's very explanatory, and it's very hands-on. And so you'll see a lot of the parents hanging around the stock market, and while their kids are playing on some of the other components. And then the counterfeiting ones and make your own money are also very popular ones as well, and it gives the kid a little bit of art background, which we always like to do and with our exhibits too. And there's the place where they can actually choose how to make their own money. There's one where they can print their own money with their own face on it, and then there's the component where they can look up close through magnifying glasses at the way our money's engraved, and some ways that counterfeiters are thwarted by some of the new things that they've put in our money, so they're not as easy to counterfeit.
Amazing. So what are the first things that you're seeing? What are the things you're seeing people really drawn to? What are the things that kids want to keep going back to?
Well, of course, the print your money. They do that when they first come in, and then there's always a line. So then they drift to other things. But I can't say, it depends. Some of the older kids like one of the components or the other, but I have seen them all really use all of them. That's one reason we like this exhibit so much, is that it doesn't seem that there's just like 2 or 3 components that everybody huddles around all the time. Of course, anything that prints, the kids are
Right.
really into that because it's got a computer component. But as that gets busy, they drift away to other things, and they don't hurry back to the one that they really like. They're staying and utilizing the whole exhibit, and that's
Right.
really gratifying because when you pick an exhibit, you don't always know if every part of it's going to be popular.
Right. One of the activities that caught my attention, because it's something that I can see that would appeal to kids of a wide range and age there, was the lemonade stand. Such a simple thing, bright yellow colors, really pretty and everything, but such a simple concept that I can see why kids are drawn to it. Tell us a little bit about that particular display.
Well, it comes up on a computer screen, and you can have a lemonade stand, and then you have to decide what price you want to charge and how many you want to sell, and there's just different things that come up, different cues, and you have to decide, and pretty quickly you can tell.
But because you have to make those decisions, it's different for every person.
Right, but then pretty quickly you can tell whether you're going to make money or lose money, because at the end it will tell you, you decided this, and because you decided this happened. And so I think kids get it, like, oh, I can't spend all this on the product and then only charge a nickel a cup. I'm not going to make any money. But until they actually see it like that in a graphic and with the little creatures that are there that tell them, they don't really understand that that's, they don't get that there is a cost behind a production.
Right. And I think that's an important part of that lesson is, for kids to understand that when you're trying to make money, there is a chance you're going to lose money. Because
you
they just
don't-
think, oh, I'm going to sell something. that's the end of that. I'm going to make money.
Yeah, but if you don't factor in the cost of your lemons and your sugar and your cups and all, and advertising in the real world, then you're not going to make any money. And I think that's the very beginning of letting children learn, well, this is a new concept. I didn't realize that when people sell something, there is costs that are incurred. And that's what's so good about every component. There's just the very beginning of an idea that can be built upon later in their actual schoolwork.
Well, Leslie, real quick, before we wrap things up, can you tell us when is the museum open?
We are open now. We're during our summer hours. So from April to November, we're open 7 days a week, 10 till 6. So people can come down any day of the week and we'll be there. And we are also open all year round. But Moneyville, sadly, will leave us September the 7th. And we're having a wonderful new exhibit from the Cleveland Children's Museum, Centuries of Childhood will come. So there's always something just right around the corner. But all summer long, Moneyville will be in Beckley.
Okay. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for making the trip up to be here with us today. And I'm looking forward to coming down and seeing the Moneyville exhibit again soon.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, from elementary school into adulthood, Treasure Purdue has created been offering free financial tools for everyone. As part of a recent high school money conference series, Treasure Purdue brought financial educator Chad Foster to 4 area high schools to speak to students. Foster is a best-selling author with an energetic presentation that teaches students what it takes to succeed in the real world, and more importantly, what the real definition of success might be. Greg Stone has more.
High school financial educator Chad Foster visited 3 southern West Virginia high schools recently in an effort to urge young people to take a serious look at their financial futures. Spending responsibly takes commitment, Foster told Logan High School students.
Pretty simple, quite frankly. Is it easy? Nope. Does it work every time? Nope. Sometimes you're going to fail? Yeah, that's right. They don't realize that the reason you have obstacles in your life, same reason I have them in mine, just make us stronger. That's what they do.
Foster preaches 4 basics as he travels the country talking to high school students. Taking care of money consists of how one is going to make money, manage money, multiply money, and protect money. He gave Treasure Purdue credit for sponsoring his visits, including one to the Treasure's alma mater, Scott High in Madison.
Because that's not taught in most schools. That's not part of the education that you get in most schools. But he thinks it's important, and I do too, that we prepare you in that area so that when you get out there, you know what you need to do to be successful.
Treasure Purdue has always been a strong proponent of financial education.
And I hope many of you are going to continue your education, and you're going to make real money. Your money, for once in your life. It's going to be your money. Mom and Dad's not going to be bailing you out all the time. So you need to learn how to manage that money, how to spend that money, how to invest that money, and how to save that money.
Foster is as entertaining as he is informative, as he joshed with both Logan and Chapmanville students.
You could marry money. Anybody have that in mind? You do? Good luck.
I think one of the most important things about our visits to the schools in West Virginia are that these students understand that in addition to their fine education, they're going to need some preparation, particularly in the area of financial literacy. And that's why it's such a positive thing that Treasure Purdue's taken the time to put this tour together and make sure these students come out of these schools not just educated, but also prepared in the area of financial literacy.
Saving and giving are also important parts of Foster's agenda.
Most of the country believes this. They believe they go to work, they get their money, and then number 1 on the list, top of the list is spend. Spend money, and if there's anything left, which there usually is not, they might save, but there's rarely anything left to save. And if there was, after they saved, some people actually give away some money. Well, here's the problem. If that's your list and in that order, there's rarely anything down at the bottom for the 2 most important parts of the list, which are saving and giving some money away. I suggest you take the list, flip it, just flip it. Start out with giving some money away, which is hard to understand when you're in high school. It was hard for me as well, but I know something for sure now. That is, if you're not giving money away today, you won't be giving money away later when it's really, really important.
Students at all 3 high schools gleaned something from Foster's presentation.
What hit home with me is my mother was a teenage parent, and she had me when she graduated high school, and she went off, still went to college, and she became successful. She's now a vice president here at our local Chase Bank, and she manages money real well. She takes care of me and my older brother,
Where I grew up in a small town, you don't think that like you can do much, but you really can. And it gives me more motivation to do my dream.
Though the mood is often festive at a Foster presentation, his advice is ultimately serious, as illustrated by his counsel on credit cards.
And when you talk about credit cards, we're not going to stop the credit cards from flowing into the hands of these young people. What we can do, though, is teach them how to use those credit cards responsibly, make sure they use them to buy things they need, not things they just want, and also the most important fact, which is to be sure these cards are paid off every time those bills come in. And I think this is something that Treasurer Perdue has emphasized ever since I've known him, and it's a great service he's doing to the students and the young people of this state.
Greg Stone reporting for Treasury Notes.
At a recent Women in Money conference in Shepherdstown, Treasurer Perdue and keynote speaker Dee Lee talked to a group of women and a few men about how to adapt their financial plans as they transition from the workforce into retirement. Greg Stone joins us again with more on that story.
Treasurer Perdue brought his popular Women in Money conference to Shepherdstown in April, the fourth time the Jefferson County City has hosted the event. In a way, things have come full circle. Shepherdstown hosted the first Women in Money conference, held outside of Charleston back in 2003. Treasurer Perdue kicked off the latest event with remarks.
Life is about changes in financial education. And planning ahead in those changes is a key to our success. Planning for that retirement. Planning a smart 529 plan to send your children to college. Plan, plan, plan.
As she did back in 2003, featured speaker Dee Lee did the honors again at the Clarion Hotel. Lee once again informed and entertained on a variety of financial topics, from saving to credit cards to retirement.
If you have $25 a week, you save that, over 30 years you could have $149,000 in your savings, in your nest egg. By simply changing one small thing, can you all save $25 a week, those of you who want to save? Easy to do. There isn't a budget I've seen that I can't find $25 that's discretionary.
Lee had plenty to say about credit card debt, which plagues millions of Americans.
Credit cards can be bad debt if you carry that loan, and it is a loan, you carry that loan month to month.
Lee urged those who attend to shop naked, meaning to take a small amount of money and leave the credit cards behind.
What can you do differently in your life? We talked about giving up the coffee. We talked about going shopping naked. What difference can you make to save more money? It doesn't have to be dramatic in your lifestyle.
Two conference attendees said they learned a great deal from the program.
This is my third time coming to see Dee speak, and every time I come I always learn something. She comes from a different aspect, and I'm always in a different part of my life. We're getting ready to retire, so I'm coming from that aspect now, so I'm picking up different information based on that.
The good versus bad debt, because student loans don't necessarily have to be a bad debt, even though it's a lot to think about for the future. And so it's just important to keep that in mind, that even though it is debt, it can be considered good debt.
Treasurer Perdue reminded the audience what a success the Women in Money series has been over the years.
I find as I travel the state, we've touched thousands and thousands of people's hearts. I get letters all the time from people who said, thank you for having that guest speaker that came, and I attended that workshop because it changed my life. I was able to get out of financial debt. I was able to pay my credit card off. I was able to do this, this, and that. I put a plan together, and it changed my life.
This is Greg Stone for Treasury Notes.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us. Keeping you informed on the Library Television Network, I'm Kim Ward for the Office of State Treasurer John Perdue.